All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the US PDCA's virtual town hall. We will be talking about collegiate diving, how we can promote collegiate diving better, the different ideas that we have to help with that, also how we can get club programs more involved in promoting collegiate diving. And we're going to talk about our ranking system for a little bit. If you do not know me, I'm the president of the US PDCA. I'm Dr. Chelsea Ale. So we're going to start off. Aaron Hintz is going to talk to us about our current US PDCA rankings, and he's just going to give us a little bit of an overview of it. Then we're going to go into a panel discussion with three amazing coaches that are going to help us talk about this subject, and then we'll have it open for question and answers if anyone has anything. If you're watching the recording, if you do have follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We will be sharing all sorts of information with you after the fact as well. So like I said, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to have our VP of membership, Aaron Hintz. He's going to be talking about the PDCA rankings for collegiate diving and explain kind of the thought process behind it, what we're doing, and hopefully the next steps moving forward. So without further ado, I'm going to give it up to Aaron.
Some of you should be aware or could be aware of the ranking system that we put out here. We're getting ready to release our second version of this, where uh, all of the collegiate Division One, Division Two diving programs are ranked according to their performances by average.
Aaron, can I
Up
stop
to
you
this
for
point of the
one
season, we're
second?
just getting ready to release our mid-season ratings, which has divers and their 1 meter, 3 meter, and platform uh, performances ranked out. That we have, for example,
Aaron, can I
you
stop
know,
you for one second? Aaron, can you check your internet for me?
what I do is I get raw data from dive meets, and all of the performances from dive meets are uh, downloaded and averaged. Uh, we put it into a spreadsheet that processes them to their teams and uh, rates them absolute best to the um, lowest and for example. Yeah,
Sorry, Aaron is having technical difficulties.
so uh, it goes down from there. But we have them all ranked. We award them points sort of based on the C file model that the C file model that some of the conferences introduced in, so that the place receives 32 points, and we recognize those voters that fall into the 25th tier with a half point each, are then get grouped by their team. The team is rated for each board and then presented in a final ranking, um, combining their finishes on 1 meter, on 3 meter, and
Aaron, can I
on
stop you for a second?
out of the mid seasons. We do have a dual meet rating that includes a platform just because some schools.
I apologize. Aaron was having technical difficulties. So let me get him back on and then we will have him re-explain it. I apologize for any issues. Okay, while we're waiting for Aaron to get back on, I do want to talk about what we're doing today as far as like talking about collegiate athletics and promoting them. I know that the USPDCA is focused on helping diving coaches at all levels, not just the collegiate side. You know, we want to help high school, club, recreational, masters, college, all of it. And I don't want anyone to feel like we are just focusing all of our attention on collegiate athletics at the moment. We just do know that right now collegiate athletics is struggling a little bit with everything going on with roster cuts and revenue sharing and all sorts of other areas. And so we want to help make sure that we're promoting collegiate athletics because that also trickles down and helps our Olympic coaches. It also helps the clubs, it helps high school. And so we really want to focus on that. But it's also because it's so top of mind, it's a great way to get people more excited about swimming and diving, get people more invested in it and involved in it. And so it's a great way to sort of start these conversations. But I do want to preface by saying that we're not just focused on college diving. This is just a great way to have these conversations because I know there's been some talk about promoting high school and club sports, and so we really want to do that as well. Um, so I'm not sure if Aaron's going to be able to get back on quite yet. So we can get started with our panel. We have three amazing panelists for us today. Two of them are from UNC Wilmington. One of them is also an amazing diving coach, but also has a wonderful podcast that's coming or that's been coming out recently. And so I was wondering if you guys would start by introducing yourselves for us, and then we can get going forward that way if that works for you. Logan, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. My name's Logan Champion. I have been a club coach since 2006, so we're coming up on 20 years now. I coached a small club for about 7 years, and I coached at Santa Clara for 8 years. Took a year break when I had kids, and then started my own club, and I'm in my third season now. And like you said, I started a diving related podcast recently with a buddy of mine, and that's been fun. So hopefully I can have some good ideas today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Bobby, would you like to go next?
Yes, my name is Bobby Guntoro. I am the head coach for UNC Wilmington Swimming and Diving. This is my 6 years here, and prior to UNC Wilmington, I was assistant coach and associate head coach at NC State. I was there for 8 years, and prior to that, I was an accountant. So it's very different than what I'm doing right now. But I swam here at UNC Wilmington, so I'm back home. Um, yeah, it's been a cool journey. Wilmington is a small town, and I think we've been making some noise a little bit with our attendance for our swimming and diving swim meets. It's we kind of make a joke that in athletic department meetings that please don't call the firefighters because we'll get shut down because there'll be too many people inside. But it's all hands on deck on our side. And Coach Cafrielo here with us, and obviously here on the show on the other side.
Yes, thank you. And if you do not know, UNC Wilmington has been selling out, or I don't know if you're selling tickets or not, but you've been packing out the swimming and diving meets, and it's incredibly impressive. And so we want to learn all from you guys what you're doing, how you've made it really that successful, which is why we have another coach as well from UNC Wilmington. Gab, can you please introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, hey, my name is Gavrilo Bladen. I go by Gav, make it easier. But this is actually my third season going on with UNC Wilmington. Before this, I was actually at the University of Alabama. Me and Josh were actually graduate assistants during the same time, so we got to meet each other throughout that process. But yeah, I got to work with them for a couple of years. Had some club experience from the past. I used to use help my coach in the past with his club. So kind of got a little bit of that club environment to help out with the collegiate level as well. And yeah, now working with the college team and also trying to grow club diving in Wilmington since, we have a lot of kids that are interested, but we are also one of the few pools that have diving boards. So trying to give them those opportunities as well, just like anybody else that has those access. But yeah, happy to be in this call.
Perfect. So, I guess the overall arching idea of today is how we can promote college diving or college swimming and diving better, get more people in the stands, get more fandom, get people more excited about it, how we can partner with club programs to get them really excited and sort of partner together. We sent out a survey, and over the last week, 53 people replied back to that survey and gave us a whole bunch of phenomenal, amazing information. We'll be turning it into a report to send out to everyone so that every single club and college can use it as a great resource to sort of get better ideas of what we can do to help promote swimming and diving at the collegiate level, but also how clubs can get involved as well. So thank you for everyone who did put those out and reply back to that. So my first question, I guess, for the panel is overarching. What is the number one thing that we can do to better support swimming and diving meets or swimming and diving programs to get people more excited about them?
I'll start. I think sometimes we're thinking, well, this is just from our experience in Wilmington. We had discussion about this probably 3, 4 years ago, and when I hired Coach Gaff and I talked to Gaffriello that, hey, we have an opportunity to not only impacting in the collegiate standpoint, but the blueprint, what we're trying to accomplish in Wilmington is to really provide what I call it a pre-competitive and a young programming, because if we are involving in the age group standpoint, and I think that itself, that's going to be your market right there for the swimming and diving. Yeah, really support per se, right? Um, and I told Coach Gabriello, like I have kids, and I said my kids will come to the meet just to watch diving. They don't understand the back and forth swimming. They're watching the walk out, and they're watching the acrobatic movement, and that's not happening in the dual meet only. That's happening on a day-to-day operation. So we try to accomplish number one on a day-to-day operation, that when do we bring in these young kids into the pool deck for us to see, oh, wait a minute, what is that? And it's like, that's diving. And I think that's when that caught attention, and then they know, they're like, okay, they want to see these amazing athletes and doing some acrobatic move that they may never seen, they may never thought before. So for us, we really think about, we're not necessarily focusing on just, hey, get as much advertisement as possible. Like, we really spend zero money on promotion in terms of our swim and dive meets. But we do work, and obviously this is also a part of our income, right? And creating some side income for all of our coaches and our staff to be able to really live here in Wilmington, and to utilize our facility that we have. So I think our involvement in the age group programming, that essentially kind of bring automatically bringing in people into our swim and dive meets. So I think, to me, the work is done in a day-to-day basis. We're not just focusing on the camps, we're focusing on what all year round program. And I told Gav that, if you're going to come to Wilmington, I want you to think bigger than just working with the collegiate program. And Gav is involved in a lot of aspect, not just the diving side on UNC Wilmington. He runs our dryland programming, and I say I want my swimmers to be just as good as my divers when it come down to everything. So we operate as one unit, and I think we're really proud of that, and we're going to start with that. And I do think that from the club standpoint, I think it's important to support local swim and dive programs, because the better local swim and dive programs, the more the kids can have aspiration to be on that particular level. Sometimes we got blindsided in terms of just focusing on a P4, Power Four, this Olympian and all that. Hey, the athletes in your hometown, they're amazing athletes, and let's give them spotlight. And I challenge some of our age group programming in town to just like, hey, you canceling Friday afternoon practice to come to our swim and dive meets, that may do a lot more than just Friday afternoon session for you, for your participants. That's been very successful for us, and Coach Gavrilo has done a really fantastic job for us, and really in terms of building the age group programming here in Wilmington. So I think it's so connected, in terms of what we can do, and just education from both sides is so important.
I'm sorry, Chelsea, you're muted.
Thank you, Josh. I was saying thank you for that. Like we said, you guys are doing a great job there, and it's so great that swimming and diving is working together and being really unified and promoting the sport. So Logan or Gab, do you have anything as well to add?
Yeah, I can add on that. But like first, when I read what the town hall was about, my I did immediately the first thing that came to thought was that movie Back to School. And most everyone knows that movie about the triple Lindy and everything. But for me, the thing that always stood out about that was how packed the dive meet was. In one scene in the movie, there's a dive meet. That's where the infamous triple Lindy happens. But the dive meet was packed, and I know that's just movie magic and everything. But why can't college dive meets have large crowds like that? Um, so, I like the idea of this town hall and coming up with ideas on how to make that more. Just getting more eyeballs on diving is only going to help the sport. No matter at what level. We're talking about NC2A today, but it can apply to all levels. But I started thinking about like who could come to dive meets and who are you trying to get to dive meets? And to me, the easiest group of people, the easiest population to try and get to a dive meet would be the student body at the school because they're a captive audience. They're already there on campus. Going to sporting events like that is already, part of their lifestyle and whatnot. Whereas other people, it's difficult to make time to do it. I know for me, I don't go to many college meets because they're usually held on the middle of the day or in the middle of the day, on a weekday. So they can be really tough to get to. I'll occasionally go to one if it's on the weekend, but I love to hear from you guys at Wilmington that there's so much work going on back and forth between the swimming and diving teams because I think that is crucial. You know, Having the swim team come and support the divers during the meet, having the divers go support the swimmers during their meet. That's an easy way to get, people coming into it. And I think from there it starts small and then it grows. All of a sudden the swimmers and the divers, they start inviting their friends. Like you can go to other sports teams, like have the swim and dive team together go watch a tennis match and maybe the tennis meet or tennis team might come and watch later and just kind of become part of the culture of the team. And that's something like the swim team, or the swim coach and the dive coach can work together to build on. But I think starting locally within the school is a good place to start because you got people that are already there. They'll probably enjoy being there. And it doesn't take too much for them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, I mean, it's great that you guys are having swimming and diving promoted. Gab, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, so I was actually gonna add on to that, but yeah, like you both already said, it's very much starting where you are. So I know from my experience as a diver in college, I know with the team we were always close with a lot of different teams. So we would always attend their meets and in turn they would come to our meets. And we actually had a senior that just graduated last season, Lauren. I mean, she's friends with everybody. Like anytime we had a meet, I mean, entire volleyball team would be there. And, you would have people from the basketball team and other teams, and they would bring their friends also. So I think obviously we can do a lot for it, but, our athletes also being very engaged with other sports or different groups on campus also helps bring in that student body, like you mentioned, Logan. Bringing in that student body because we also do a lot of different what you call them events on campus like athletics, just the normal student population, and having conversations with a lot of different students. They're always asking questions, but they might not know where the pool is, to even attend one of the meets. And after having these conversations, it's like, oh, okay, I'll show up to the next one because now I know where to go. And then a lot of credits to Bobby and his LLC as well. That gives us a really good opportunity to connect with the community on a different level because even though it's, swim lessons or dive club or something else, you get to talk and network with parents a lot of times. And, you start talking diving and they're like, oh, yeah, my kids would probably love to come. And so, just like that, you have another 5 people showing up at your meet. And then, the longer you're working with them, the more people you start to recruit in a sense, to come see your meets. And I think that just kind of grows over time. But then, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things we can do with the people around us to increase the participation numbers.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, if people don't know that the meets exist or that they're taking place, it's really hard to get them to come, or if they don't even know where the facility is. I mean, I know that I see that all the time with my students at Alabama. I'm constantly asking them, like, "Oh, do you go to swimming and diving meets?" And like, "Where's the pool at?" Or, "Oh, I didn't even know we had a team." And I'm like, "How do you guys not know this? It's literally a block from where we're meeting for a classroom right now." So, what do you think programs can do to better sort of communicate about diving meets or swimming and diving meets, or to get more people to sort of know about them, other than just trying to like post on social media? Like, what else can they be doing to sort of spread the word and get people more excited about it and get people to actually show up as opposed to just like, oh, yeah, I know there's a meet, but not really invested in figuring out when it is and how to get there?
I think intentional advertisement is important. Knowing what your target market and really kind of go from there. Working. Sometimes we are relying on the athletic department, and as we know, the collegiate season is going at the same time as the basketball season, so they're going to be busy with the basketball. So I think we have to be, looking in the mirror like, hey, if we're not doing the job, it's not going to get done. So I think that's a really simple as that, and I challenge our coaches to really to think about that, and like Logan and Gavrilo mentioned, our student athletes are the best advertisement out there. You're right, and so I think there are 50 plus of them, and we talk to them. Hey, if you don't share the words, this stops right there. Like people follow you more than they follow us. So I think that's really important. And again, I think I want to underline that I think one of the biggest strengths of our in UNC Wilmington is specifically is our involvement with youth programs. And I talk to Gav all the time. I said, why do these kids want to do? How come this gymnastic is so popular and in diving it's not come close to second to gymnastic? There is absolutely I mean, our just for to give you example, our athletic directors, his daughter is like in love with our swimming youth programming and diving youth programming. She's in our pool literally like 4 or 5 days a week to do to so our idea is just like, dude, she's loving it. Because I think from that standpoint, it will bring so much more to the program. We're having one of the best year for fundraising, and 40% of our fundraising comes from family that the kids involved in our youth programming or they're not even alum. They just feel that this student athlete inspire their kids to just be great. To hear that, and it's just, I think there's something on tap market there. So for us at number one, I think um intentional marketing is important, and understanding the target market. Like you say, we want to bring in the students, that we got to make sure our student athletes also buying into what we're trying to accomplish, and doing it really kind of like in a very intense way. Hey, 2 3 weeks before, create this excitement. Why should they come here? What are you looking for here? And another one is like we try to limit our swim and dive meet into no more than 2 hours. We got to shift this thing, and doing it Friday evening. I know coaches don't like it. I like 6 p.m. Friday. And I don't like Saturday. I have 3 kids. I kind of like there's so much going on. I got soccer, this, that. I'm kind of like, can we do it Friday 6 p.m. like it's Friday Night Live. So I think we got to change, right? It's out of our normal. It's out of our. I think we have to do something that bring new excitement for just for swimming and diving in overall. So to me, I think that's kind of the long answer, I guess, from my side.
Bobby, I got 2 young kids and I relate so much to what you said. Like, no, we're gonna do it on this time. Like, no. I that's excellent. And I think also intentional relationship building with different people in the community. You can do it with the local club teams. You can do it with the local high schools. You can do it with the other sports teams already on campus affiliated with the university. You can do it with whoever, but creating those relationships with other people to um, to get those relationships going. So there's like reciprocation going on where like, hey, I go to a local swim or dive program and say, hey, can you guys come and you know, come watch our event? And then what can we do to help you? What's going to help you do it? But like having those relationships, providing incentives for it, I think is a good place to start. And then, like you said, on the intentional marketing side, it's not too hard to market on social media, but I haven't set foot on a college campus in a couple decades, but I gotta imagine school papers still exist and school radio stations still exist. And I'm just going there and using those resources and whatever new ones are out and available that I'm not aware of these days. Just to spread the word, just get information out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Gap, do you have anything else to add to that?
Um, I don't have anything else to add on to that. I think on campuses especially, a lot of times, if it's not the football or the basketball, obviously you don't get as many students to come to your events, but I think it's starting to shift a lot to that, if you have anything like free shirts or something. I mean, all students like the free stuff, trying to really turn it into kind of like what they do during the halftime shows or whatever, having something almost like a little incentive to kind of give them to come to your meets a little more. I think that's another thing that maybe, having that with the marketing could be something that also would attract more people than you typically would get, maybe, potentially.
One thing we can learn from soccer, I think many soccer teams that have youth game. So they invite these different youth programs to come to either one or two, or they have like a team of the meet or of the game, something like that. I think, you know, for me, I'm here. I like to see diving as a sport to continue to grow because it's swimming and diving. It should always be swimming and diving to me. And if we're gonna grow it, I think it has to be working from our side and also the club side. Our side between the collegiate standpoint and also the club side. And like what Logan said, I think that's really important for us to have conversation with the club coaches in the state. Start with the in the state, right? Within the driving distance, go like, hey, here's our schedule. Which one of this that would work for you? Maybe we can tie that into some type of a small meet or some, so make it worth for them to make a drive. Like the next day, we're gonna having a dive meet or something like that. So I think it's so important for us to have this conversation more and more and more, and including us. We need to start conversation like that with really all, and we're fortunate, really good programs here in North Carolina on the diving side. So we recruit heavily in state because why not? Because it's a great program inside. But I think if we start with the in-state club program, and the club program needs to understand the importance for them to support in-state universities. I start from there, right? And then suddenly we can really grow diving at the age group standpoint. It's kind of go from there, right? So I think we need to start more conversation with this on the swimming side, on the diving side. Hey, come here. Let's show your participants there is a next level after you graduate from high school. There is a place for everybody in your club team after high school.
No, definitely. And I appreciate you guys like sharing those insights. I know based on our survey, some of the top things that people suggested was having autograph signing for the swimmers and divers, like having so the club kids can come and actually meet them like they're celebrities, get their autographs, take photos with them. They also talked about doing like special club nights where you're sort of promoting specific clubs to get those kids excited. But they also talked about bringing swimming and divers to the club programs as well. So not even during their meets, but going the other way, like the college kids showing up to the club practice and getting people really excited about it. And again, trying to make them more of like celebrities and get them really excited so that it's like, hey, come watch us compete in college. This could be what your life looks like in a year, 5 years, 10 years from now. So the more you can get those club kids involved, the more exciting it is, and it'll just keep helping build the sport a little bit better and a little bit more meaningful for it. Um, One of the issues that we saw in the survey and we see a lot in conversations is that diving sometimes is considered overshadowed by swimming, or that it's sort of an afterthought of swimming, or that it's a swimming meet and diving is just sort of something that we have to get through and we have to do. Where obviously us divers really love the diving aspect of it. How can we get college programs to really buy into the swimming and diving mentality, but also making it really exciting where diving's not sort of overshadowed by swimming, but that they're both really exciting in their own right, and that you get people to really care about both of them?
That's a really good questions. I mean, I think, when all this, I mean, last year starting on the roster cuts and all that stuff starting last year, right? And I think in a big school start happening or that, and I turn around on our staff is saying that, well, this may be an opportunity for the smaller school to raise to the occasion, and specifically for the diving standpoint. Because if the big school is going to start our roster cut, then I think, well, maybe the smaller school will be able to the opportunity to, hey, we can carry bigger roster. Now some school can, some school don't. I think it has to come from all the coaches need to understand is that, hey, it is one team. Like I can share on the philosophical from our standpoint. And I mentioned when I recruit Coach Gavrilo to come to Wilmington, I said, Coach, I'm looking for UNC Wilmington coach. As simple as that. Like I'm not looking for a sprint coach. I'm not looking for a middle distance coach. I'm not looking for a dive coach. I'm not looking for any coach. I'm looking for UNC Wilmington coach, because we're one team. We're UNC Wilmington. Now your expertise is in diving, and my expertise maybe in certain areas, and I'm gonna hire other people that expertise better than I do. And one of the biggest thing that I mentioned to Coach Gavrilo when he came in, one of the things that's like, hey, we got to find something that to make sure everybody's equal in this program. What is it? Like number one, if the swimmers have to wake up early 3 days a week. I want the divers to wake up early 2 days a week. Figure out a way in the early season, just to kind of something where like, wait a minute, the diving is not. They got to wake up at 7 o'clock. They got to practice 7 o'clock Tuesday or Thursday. They do their dry land on Tuesday or Thursday. It's like, wait a minute, it's suddenly very different. So, and I told Gav, there's something like that's gonna make a big difference. And I remember in preseason, and I told Gav, like, I want you to run the whole program dry land, and I want to run the whole team. This is not middle distance sprint diving. I want you to run. This is UNC Wilmington Drawlin and run by Coach Cafrillo. And he's not the dive coach, he's UNCW coach. And I think it's such a big conversation that I think the dive coaches and the swim coaches need to be having this conversation and having this really meaningful conversation that we're one team. Just everybody have different expertise. It's the same thing. The 50 freestylers, if I train the 50 freestylers like the miler, we would absolutely fail. They would quit tomorrow. And then but it's the same thing, right? It's a if a diver have to train, like it just doesn't go that way. And then along the way, once we set that culture, then we really sit down with everybody involved. It's like, hey, for this group to be successful, they must sleep in so that they can be really good in certain things. And if they go too early, it's not safe. As simple as that. And I always say that it's not safe for the divers to do flips too early in the morning. It's just not safe. So I think the conversation is should be happening before the meets, and I think it's for us. Obviously, it's an important part of our program. It will continue to be important part of our program. And so we have the resources, and in terms of the pool space and all that, and we want to make sure to maximize our resources. But those schools have resources. It's just a matter of are you going to be intentional about it or not? And we can't, we can't force one way or the other, but that's my take on that.
Well, I know we definitely appreciate how much you care about the diving sport and not just focusing on swimming and how much you want your program to be like one unified team. And I think having these conversations is really important to get it so it's swimming and diving. Logan or Gab, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I think just kind of going on that, it's creating that team culture, and I think that's gonna be, a conversation between, all the staff, between the swim coaches, the dive coaches, and everyone involved of like, do we want this to be our culture? I think we should because, it brings everyone together and because it is swimming and diving at the NC2A level. It's one team. So having those relationships, being able to talk to each other and say like, hey, we want to do this. I love the idea of saying like the divers, swimmers are up every morning early. Divers, we want you too. Like I remember diving in college, a couple of days a week being up early, training alongside with the swimmers, and that was good. Like we bonded together and we became one team. I think that diving in general becomes really important and is highlighted when it comes to the championship meets during championship season. But like, how do you get that during, the rest of the season? I think it's just building that culture from the ground up. It's like intentionally wanting to do it and figuring out ways to make that happen within your team. But it's starting with the one idea and then growing from there.
I'll add on to that one. So yeah, it does start with the team. So the team culture is the biggest thing. So I think obviously for championships, you get a little more attention. I think for dual meets, it really stems from how the team and even the team parents go about it. So if you, let's say diving starting in, one of the breaks, if the team's, taking a break, obviously some people are getting ready for their next race, but if they shift over this way and the parents in the stands, they also know what's going on. Obviously, you're going to have some people in the crowd that have no idea what's going on, but if the crowd starts shifting this way a little bit, or even shifting their attention that way a little bit, I think all of that kind of makes other people mimic that a little more. So instead of being like like overshadowed, is more like, okay, we're going on to this event and everybody's just kind of shifting that way, going on to the next thing. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about how you build that culture and conversations are going to need to be had with everybody that's involved. And I think those people are also going to be the parents and the student athletes because, again, they're all part of the bigger team.
Yeah, again, it's just kind of get as many people involved as possible and being as unified as possible. So definitely, it's great when you're able to do it, and hopefully other programs can sort of buy into that process as well. I know one of the things that we hear a lot is about is like making diving more exciting, adding music or the announcing, or maybe making it less confusing. For us who are involved in the sport of diving, it makes sense to us. But for people who don't really understand the sport, it's a little bit more confusing. Where swimming, it's a little bit easier to sort of see, okay, this person's winning, where you don't really know how it works with diving. What are some things that we can quickly, easily implement for whether it's club meets or college meets that get people really excited, help them make it less, I don't say boring, because diving's not a boring sport, but like more engaging, more exciting, and also less confusing for people who really just don't understand. Like some sports, you don't need to understand the sport, but the environment is so electric that people don't care. You could watch football and no one has any idea what's going on, but the environment just gets them excited. So, how can we implement that stuff and make it really easy for these competitions?
I'll actually start with this one. So I don't know if you guys follow any soccer or anything like that. But as the soccer game's going on, the announcing it's pretty upbeat. They kind of go up, they kind of like follow along as it goes. And so I think it's my second year as a GA actually. We had a home meet and I was announcing behind the table and I got some really good feedback from some of the parents. So essentially what I did was I was trying to give everybody all the information right off the bat. But as the divers are going, obviously I'm not talking as they're diving, but as soon as they hit the water, I was trying to announce almost the same way that they would at a soccer meet. So trying to give them all the information, but also tell them, okay, this person just did this, which puts them here, or it's kind of like making it in a game in a sense, because it's not necessarily a game, but the way you announce can make it sound like a game, or like you're playing a game. And we got really good feedback from that. And even our last think, oh yeah, our mid-season, they did a really good job. We had an announcer there, and she did kind of something similar, and also got a lot of good feedback from the crowd. So I think, that's a simpler thing that you can do. But I think it goes a long way with, the crowd and keeping them engaged, and especially for those that have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. I think swimming is naturally exciting sport because like you see it right there. It's multiple people racing against each other and who's going to touch the wall first and who's going to win. Diving is very exciting in its own way, just seeing the amazing things people are doing, but it's just slower. Like just the way a diving meet goes, it's just slower. You do a dive and then there's downtime, and you do a dive and there's downtime. It's pretty, I think it's pretty easy to pick up and understand, but I'm also saying that from someone who's been in the sport my whole life. But just helping other people understand the sport is pretty simple. And they always wonder why, like, well, why'd they score this? I thought that was good. Why'd they score that? And then you can tell them a little bit more of the rules, and having that kind of information put out there can be good. But I think it's just what are you doing in that downtime between dives? Music can make anything more exciting, being lively. Like Gav said, having a great announcer, an announcer sets the tone for everything. So having an announcer there that can provide that extra information rather than just reading off a dive number that no one understands and reading some scores, which people are confused about, having someone that can speak to those things and explain those while things are going on. I think that's a good place to start.
I agree on all. As somebody I look, I enjoy diving. I have no idea how to score it. I watch it. I stay for prelims and finals every single championships. I sit there sweating on the other side every time our diver's about to. And I tell our divers all the time, I'm just watching your lead up. If your lead up, you're going to the right side. I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on here? Okay. Um, but but I know my kids talking from the other side, like my kids, when I go home, like my son will like, Dad, I watched the dive today. This is kind of funny part. It was like, oh, it was really cool, but I watched one. They're just like, ow, on their face. That was so cool. I want to do that. It was just like, all right. It was just like, but I think it was more that they're watching. These kids are watching. Like if you bring in this, I think it's really is an entertainment for the kids. And I think it's essentially that's going to grow the sport, right? And same thing on the swimming side. Like majority of these kids just they don't know who went. Like in the swimming side, the excitement on the racing is great, but to update on a live score is so hard. So they don't really know like, what's going on, like who's winning here, right? So that's gonna continue to be the challenge, and we'll continue to try to do the best we can to provide the scores. Because my wife is not a swimmer or a diver, she just kind of like I remember my like 3 years ago, like I don't know what's going on because I don't know the score. All right, we got to put score. So we put the live score right underneath our. So started with that something like that, and I think it's really. I think, yeah, for us it's like I don't know. My kids love watching diving. If they can just come and just right there just watch diving all day, they will. It's such a cool entertainment to me.
Yeah, I think the most exciting part about diving from a spectator's point of view is like the uncertainty of it all. Is like, are they gonna do a great dive and take the lead? Are they gonna crash? Or there's a lot of unknown in there of what's gonna happen. I think that is just kind of naturally inherent in the sport. And hearing you talk about how your kids are like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but then they did this. That was great. Like I think that's the interesting part about it that engages people and pulls them in. But again, it's just like you have that, and then there's all this downtime, and then you have that, and then there's all this downtime. Like, how do you keep it kind of more ongoing and engaged?
Is there a way for on a diving side? Is there a way for the announcer to announce? It's like, okay, that round, Gabrielo is on the lead, Josh is second, Logan is third. Gabriel just took the lead by point 0.5. This is an exciting round. Let's see what's going on. What's next? It's something like that, where like each round, just a small minute, rather than just announcing Gabrielo 105B. Okay, well,
Yeah.
give me something. I give me something more. I think that can be kind of like, they go with the meat. They're in it. So I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, it depends on how the meat's being scored. If it's being scored through a live scoring program on a computer, you have that capability. But if it's being hand scored on paper, there's a lag time, and sometimes the scores aren't even calculated till the meet's over. So it just depends on that. But there is a counter argument to that is like some divers don't want to know where they're at. That could be a big detriment, and it could be like get in their head and go like, oh, I need to score 40 points on this dive to take the lead. And then all of a sudden that gets in their head and festers because diving is a mental sport. And having that, it could be a double-edged sword. It'd be great for the audience, but for the divers, it could go either way. But having live scoring accessible, it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, a lot of athletes, depending on the meet, will be able to see where they rank. They'll look it up or their coaches can look and they'll put it on the computers and stuff. But we don't see it very often at meets where they're actually promoting that for the spectators. The spectators can look if they have dive meets, and they can pull it up on the website. But if you're just a random spectator, you're not going to know to look that up. Again, you have to be careful that some athletes don't want to know that. But if it gets more people in the stands, it gets people excited, then maybe the athletes just try to tune it out and make it so that they're not paying as much attention to it. And I was thinking as you're talking, I was like going back to your movie reference about, old school or whatever the movie was where, they get excited about it. I know that I was talking to a college coach one day and he was like, yeah, we need to get Greek life involved. We really need to get the Greeks life to come and support it because if you get them involved, then it creates this whole other thing. And if they could do like fundraising or something where maybe not a belly flop contest, but some type of thing where they raise money to get their members to jump off a platform or something. And then all of a sudden people see it. And once they see it one time, they're like, oh, I love this sport. This sport's really cool. It's just a matter of getting people to see it the first time.
Yeah, it reminds me of another movie. I think it's Van Wilder, where they do that in like a belly flop contest as a fundraiser. And yeah, I think getting the Greek life involved in it is an excellent idea.
You just have to be careful with liability issues. Don't do anything if you're not covered liable. We're not telling you to do anything you're getting in trouble for. So one of the things that we talked about before is getting these club programs involved. Like they want to do like Q&As, they want to do meet and greets, they want to maybe have clinics or joint practices. Club coaches and athletes seem to really want to be involved in the college side of it, but there's also a lot of issues when it comes to NCAA regulations and compliance. How do college coaches sort of navigate getting club programs involved with the college scene without affecting their eligibility or any recruiting violations?
It's really, I mean, the easiest way to do it, or there are a few things to how to do it, right? Through the LLC is probably a little bit easier, but I think as the compliance standpoint, you can work around it, no problem. When it come down to, that's why I say having them in the swim meets and then tie, sort of swim and dive meet, and then tie that into the meet. What else are you doing? And I think if you do that, let's see, in the state of North Carolina, like we got us, we got UNC's over there, we got ECU on women's only, but still they got the diving side, right? So I think you got NC State's right there. So I think it's dive coaches, hey, let's create together like each of these teams that have different home meets. Can we go like a tour or something, or go, or maybe like one season you're gonna visit these three teams, and then the following season you're gonna visit the other three teams, and then what is it? And then maybe some type of either educational, not even have to be educational. Those dive clubs, if they are coming together, they can technically just like, hey, you just rent our space the next day to run whatever your practice. As simple as that. There's so much more going on to do that, and obviously when it comes down to educational of collegiate athletic, we can only talk to a certain amount of, certain group of individuals. You have to be careful with that, right? Obviously, it's juniors, seniors, or the dates and all that. So it's I think there are many ways to bring in this dive clubs into collegiate campus. It just not even camps. Really, I'm not even talking about camps. I'm just talking about supporting the dive meets within the state. I keep continuing to in the states because I forgot to mention that more than 50% of our student athletes from North Carolina. So like, we have 50 people. We have 50 people right now, and on our roster, the parents. I mean, about almost all of those North Carolina parents, they're going to show up, and that itself already 100 people. So that's itself already 100 people guaranteed. And then other people coming in and all of that. You're getting 300 to 400, no problem. And I think so. So I think it's the importance for, again, like the better the more exposure of this dive clubs into just in-state institutions is, I think, the better it would be for the growth of the sport, I think.
Perfect. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
I am not involved in NC2A, so I don't really know the specific ins and outs regarding compliance and all that. But I gotta imagine things like meet and greets and Q&As and stuff like that is simple enough. And, just being able to have the age group, the high school athletes interact and talk to and take the photos and just meet the college athletes. I think that's huge right there. Um, I remember I grew up doing gymnastics, and our gymnastics coach, a couple of times, like just loaded us all up in a van and drove us to a college meet. And it was an excellent experience because we got to not only watch it and see it, but then afterwards we got to interact with the athletes. And that's something that kind of always like stuck with me as a really positive experience in my life. And just having that interaction, not just going to a meet and seeing it, but being able to like talk with the athletes, talk with the coaches, and interact with them in some way, I think is like doing a little bit. Like it doesn't take a lot to do that, but it really um, can have a positive impact.
Yeah, and I mean, in the turnaround too, it also helps with recruiting, right? If you're getting involved with the clubs early, then the clubs know about your college program, they know about who you are, they also know you support diving, so then they get excited about it and just kind of sort of keeps helping all around, right? It helps in your actual program, that also helps with the recruiting of it too. I know we kind of talked about promotion before, but one of the things we see is people just don't know about diving meets and they don't know that they exist. And I know the PDCA has been really trying to highlight a couple key meets over the weeks to sort of just get people excited about them, but trying to get people to attend and see them. Obviously, we need to talk to athletic departments and the marketing departments and stuff. And you talked about working with athletes. But is there anything like universally that we could all do to sort of help support each other? Like, would that be working, like we were saying, Bobby, in the middle of just different states? Or is it something like the PDCA should, take initiative on this? I mean, we're here to help diving coaches and help the sport of diving in general, but we'd love to get more people to sort of keep sharing information about meets to the people that are in the states around them or the local communities. So is there anything that we all could do, I guess, better to be helping each other?
I think it again kind of goes back to the relationships you have, like the college coaches have with the local clubs to go there and to talk with the club coaches and just say like, hey, can you guys come support us? But also it's got to be a two-way street too. It's not just everyone in service of the college team. It's got to work both ways. Maybe it's the coaches, going out and working with the club coaches or providing information, or the athletes going out and watching or helping out in the local community or club meets there. But I think it starts with those relationships there. It's something that doesn't cost anything, just takes a little bit of time and effort. And I think you end up getting those good relationships where like you can just like a club coach and call up a college coach and just say, hey, what's your schedule this season? Let me put it on the calendar and like we can try and do it. Having just being able to pick up the phone and call a college coach, like for many people, like doesn't exist. So again, it's just getting out there, getting to know the people. And if you do that, that's a good start.
We can also creating some type of like maybe like a social media with the PDCA hey, if you guys have social media, maybe creating a program, maybe once a week you create, hey, if you tag us on your story on social media, and we'll post it for you. If you have a meet that week, and just like, but you need to do you got to do the job. And what we do will help you by just repost your story. I think something like that would help, right? I think just a simple like that, and making an announcement like, hey, maybe once a week on Mondays, it's collaborative programming. You tag us on your meets that week, we'll repost it. I think it's as simple as that. Then us, we got to do the work first. So we got to get the words out there. So we have to be active as well. And it's just a kind of like a meet in the middle type of way.
I think another good thing would also be centralizing all of the information for the meets, because a lot of times if you want to go to a meet, you have to go to UNCW Swim and Dive schedule to see when the meets are happening, or you got to go to Duke's, NC State, ECU, whatever team. But I think if we were to have somewhere where all of those are centralized, it would also make it easy, because then, no matter where you are in the Carolinas, you can always just have that, and oh, this is the one that's happening the closest to me at this point. I can just go to this one. And if I'm visiting someone else, it's like, oh, this one's the closest one, so I can attend that one. I think that would also help a lot of people, because most people also don't even know where to look for all that information online. So, yeah, I think that might help.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I will say if you guys post anything and tag the PDCA in it, we will always share it, assuming it's relevant and appropriate. I mean, I don't think anyone would tag us in anything bad, but I don't want to just blanketly say we'll share whatever. But whether it's drills or skills or meets or anything, like we will share whatever if you tag us in it. So we want to help cross promote as much as we can. We're trying to get our platform to get more viewership, get people excited about it, and the more that we share stuff, then hopefully the more other people share, and it just keeps kind of spiraling, sort of like what you said. And so feel free to, yeah, always tag us in anything, and we will share it and help you promote. And I also think, you guys were brought up some good points about communication and talking to coaches. We talked about club coaches and college coaches. One of the areas we haven't hit on yet is high schools. There's so many high school programs and high school coaches, and some of those coaches are math teachers, and some of them are swim coaches, and some of them are just someone who's volunteering that doesn't understand the sport at all. And they probably don't know who to reach out to or who to contact or even when to go to college meets or anything. But a lot of times, high school divers are the ones that could benefit the most from being sort of fans of college, because they might not realize that that's an opportunity for them and stuff. And so I would definitely, encourage coaches to also try and figure out the high schools in the area. Now, every state is very different when it comes to swimming and diving on what that organization looks like. I know, and North Carolina is very different than Maryland with all of that. But do you guys have any advice on specifically sort of high school coaches and like how we can get them more involved? Like, should the colleges get a list of all the high schools in that state or in that area? Or should the high school coaches sort of do the same thing and look for all the colleges? Or what would be the best way for them to sort of partner together?
That's a good question. I think for us here in Wilmington, there's no access for diving other than our when our pool was down. It was scrambling for us. We had to send the divers to go to ECU or NC State and just drive. That's a 2 hour drive. So so it's really unfortunate for that standpoint. So but with that being said, we kind of talk about, well, it always helped to see what, like you said, Same thing on the swim coaches in the high school standpoint. They typically don't come from the swimming background or the diving background. They're just kind of there, right? They're a teacher, but they're interested in that, so they're gonna learn something. But a little bit easier to find a swim coaches, but it's really hard to find dive coaches. To figure out a way to create a high school only program, then suddenly, hey, okay, you're in high school one, two, three, four, five. That's fine, but all of you guys can maybe if it's a small region, all of you guys can train together in this high school only program, providing something like that. And for dive clubs, like they maybe like, hey, reaching out to different high school, like, do you have if you have a swim team, do you have divers? What's going on? And maybe there are maybe individuals that want to do diver, but maybe that team don't have dive coach. Then suddenly they're not offering diving. So I think for me, I think it's a really it's across the board conversation, and it could be an opportunity for many dive program. That's like, if you can fit again, obviously space is very limited, and we understand that. But those of those just getting started once a week or twice a week, or maybe just throughout the season, once a week or twice a week, that'll make a big difference. And maybe something can grow that way. And maybe in the future, a lot of these young kids are like, hey, my high school, this high school team have a dive team. So I want to start diving right now. So that's kind of like we try to do that here at UNC Wilmington. More like, well, if the divers, if we're not really intentionally providing space for them to train, and we can't do it if it's just like, okay, high school one, you train here, and this time high school two, you train here. Well, there's not enough space, there's not enough time for them to do that. So we kind of create, why don't you guys put together collectively, how many divers do you have? Let's create, okay, these are the dive spot for you, and then work with them, and maybe you're providing one or two coaches for them. And I think those are kind of like the big key, right? Obviously the dive clubs, we do that through the dive clubs, right? And really just work with them. uh, for us, I think obviously for institution, we bind, there's the NCAA regulation that we have to follow, and the dates and all that, all timings, and when we can do that. So it can be challenging, but there's way to do it. Which if my rule is always don't ever assume. Just make sure you go to the compliance office, tell them what's your intention and how can you do that, and they'll work with you. So I think that's really important.
I think outside of, student body, your next best audience to try and get is the high schools because they're local, they're in the area. And Chelsea, you said it, and like it's a great point. High school is vastly different and everywhere, and from each part to the next, and even from like, for where I am, even if you go an hour away, it's completely different. But like kind of knowing what it's like, but there's probably, if you're in an area that has high school diving, there's probably a decent amount of divers in that area and diving coaches, and it's there tends to be a lot of turnover, at least in my area, and who the diving coaches are. So you think you know them all, and then the next year it's like half of them has changed, and it's like being able to stay up to date on that can be a chore from time to time. But again, it's just if you know who the diving coaches are in the high schools, then it's very easy to send them an email, to reach out to them, and just like you get their contact information and just say like, again, you send them information, you start building those relationships.
Yeah, I think working with the high schools, obviously as a college coach, it's we gotta be careful with NCAA and all of that. But I think one thing that we do really well here, pretty much we are working with I want to say five high schools. Yeah, five high schools. And each season, the one thing that I think also helped get in more divers was that we would always have one of our current divers work with them during their season. So they actually get to talk and interact with a college diver that is going through it right now. And, for them, that also gives them that it opens their eyes to, okay, this is what it would look like because I'm talking to this person that's telling me, okay, this is what it's like. But also for them, I think just nice to be able to have that interaction because I mean, you don't just go out and, meet another diver that's currently in college anywhere else. And so, they tell their friends about it, and then next thing you know, next year there's, double the amount of people that there were the year before. And then, obviously because they have that relationship with that diver, then they're coming to our meets as well. And vice versa sometimes, so for us, we don't necessarily have to be involved as coaches as much, but even putting that middle person to kind of bridge the gap, I think is also very helpful when it comes to getting the attention from high schoolers to want to do diving or want to do, more than just a call or a high school season. I think that's been really helpful for us here at Wilmington.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate, I mean, the more we can get people, oh, Logan, were you going to say something?
Oh, just a thought popped in my head was just like, there are a lot of compliance issues around working with high schools, but like depending on when seasons are in your area, but like what if your college athletes went and judged local high school meets? It's not a big thing to do. It's not a huge commitment, but it could go a long way in just again just creating those bonds and relationships with the athletes.
Yeah, we actually had three divers actually in the last 2 years. They go to judge for the big high school championship meets. And if they need more judges for their dual meets or other meets as well, they'll typically reach out and ask if they can have some of the divers judge for them. So that is a really good way to do it too, yeah.
That's definitely a great idea. I mean, I know, like I said, a lot of the feedback in the surveys was just getting these college athletes more involved in diving at the other levels, like whether it's spotlighting the clubs or the programs, but having those meet and greets, those conversations, like having them go to the actual club programs or high school programs, just sort of like showing face to get people excited. I mean, if you look at how popular gymnastics became at NCAA level, it's because there's a few very select, very famous gymnasts that got really excited and got this huge following. And so part of it is just sort of promoting our athletes and getting people excited and to know who they are because then you're emotionally invested in it. You want to know that they're doing well, that they're exciting, and you want to go watch them, whether you actually care about the sport of diving or not. Like you're going to go and you're going to watch them. And so that's another great way to do it. And we've been talking about like communication is one of the barriers that we see. And so we need to be communicating a lot better with people about what we have to offer, making it more engaging, making people more excited about it. Partnering with these club programs, also making sure that swimming and diving is a partnership, which again, UNC Wilmington, you guys are doing a phenomenal job of this, and we appreciate that. Making diving not feel like they're the afterthought, but that they're just equals. And then, really trying to get families involved in everything. So to be mindful of time, and we do want to talk about the rankings for a minute at the end. But I wanted to open in case anyone had any like quick questions or any like final thoughts about this topic. I know we could talk about this forever, and you guys have brought up a lot of amazing ideas that I really hope people just start implementing. Even like one or two here will make a big difference, but it'll just keep helping our sport grow. So, does anyone have any quick questions, or do any of you have any like sort of final thoughts about anything that we've been talking about or quick additions we could do?
I just had one thought or one final thought, just something I don't think got brought up, but for me, just going to a meet, I think the most important thing is like just having an accurate timeline because I've in the past have shown up to meets and they're like, oh, the meet already happened or it's happening 3 hours from now. So like knowing it because the timelines that are posted aren't necessarily the timelines that are actually occurring. So having that information and then like having ample seating, a lot of the colleges in my area they got great facilities, but they're very lacking in seating. It's usually just someone pulling out some folding chairs and putting them on the deck somewhere. So, if you're going to have a lot of people coming, like they need a place to sit and watch too. So,
Well, and I
You
think
should
what
you should come to our meet. We got beers, man. It's sales and
all
everything.
right,
We're
I'm
all ready
there.
to go. They're rock and rolling.
What I was going to say, Logan, is yeah, one of the, you guys mentioned this before too, is that the timing of the meets. Like I know I have been able to go to one meet since I moved to Alabama because they're always in the middle of the day when I'm teaching. And my students, they can't go to the meets either because it's when we have class. Like they'll be like, yeah, cancel class if you go to the meet. And I'm like, I wish I could, but unfortunately, that's my job to not do that. And so, like what you were saying, Bobby, is having it on a Friday night, like having the meets at times where more people can actually go and attend. I mean, some people are like, oh, I don't want to do it at that time. But if you have it at 11 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, no one can attend, whether you're, in school, because either the club or high school kids are in school, the parents are working. If you're at the university, you're probably in class. And so it makes it really challenging. So having those times that people can actually attend will help too. Not only making the timeline correct, but also making it a time when people can actually attend, I think is really important too. Also serving alcohol, I think is a great idea too, mindfully.
Well, my last thought, I think, I I've I I would say I fought not the word, but I talk a lot and intensively with our athletic department that we're trying to create a show. And because I sat in volleyball matches, I sat in like soccer, they're they're producing a show, and I think our mindset need to change. We can't hose a meet. We got to produce a show. What does that mean? What does that mean? And we all live in different places, and you got to know what brings people to your facility, and in which group of people that you will bring into your facility and create a show for them. One of the biggest thing, and I know for us that I'm pretty stern about this, and if this is 4 years and 5 years in running, that our walkout it's a show. And I tell everybody that I had a senior last year. It's like, share stuff. Well, hey, I forgot my sweatpants. It's like, well, you either go home, get it, or you're not walking out with the team. Yes, they need to wear it from top to bottom, everything same. And we talked to them that your walkout is the first. This is the first event of the meet, and it's something like that. It is for us. There's something that I know our local community really look forward to, and people would in their seat 15 minutes before because we said, hey, 10 minutes before it's too late. You're missing out the important part. Like it's like if you go to a football game or basketball game, you kind of want to get in there early because that's the exciting part, especially the football game, right? Like the tailgate, usually the tailgate, the people start, hey, game start in 20 minutes. Want make your way in. For me, I feel like there's something to it about it where people can't just like there just to watch. Sure, that's important, but what are the things that we offering to this local community or the student bodies that they will be excited to see. So I think that's important. We got to take time to do it. Everybody has different target audience, and you can do it. Everybody can do it.
I know Josh has a question, because you're raising your hand. I think you have a question.
Sorry.
You're muted, Josh.
I had two questions. One was for Logan. When you're talking about timelines, right? It's a two-parter. So one, how far in advance would you as a spectator appreciate a timeline? And then two, in said timeline, would you like to know when warm-ups specifically start or just when the competition starts slash ends?
I guess I got two ways to answer that is like me personally and like me if I'm a general spectator. But me personally, if I just know the day before or the day of that timeline, that usually will work with me because my schedule is more open than most people, at least during the daytime hours. But I thinking from just a general spectator, having that information a few days ahead of time so you can make arrangements and plan to do it, I think would be important. And knowing when the warm-up times versus the competition times are, my favorite part of a meet is watching the warm-ups. So I want to know when the warm-ups are, but I think other people might just want to watch the meets. But maybe having both of those that information out there, like warm-up start at this time, meets expected to start around this time, could be helpful.
Sure. And then Bobby slash Gav, this is for you guys. So our at FIU, our meets are typically on Saturdays in the morning. In your experience, do you guys notice a larger gap in fans showing up versus a Friday night versus a Saturday morning? Does it make a huge difference in your experience? Any feedback would be great. We appreciate it.
Uh, for Friday, we get a lot more people from outside the program will show up. And if you're going Saturday morning, it's a struggle to get a lot of people from outside the program. They now the people that's within the program that's means that the parents the really the people that's the relative they're gonna show up because they're gonna come to the meet, right? They come in town or whatever to the meet. But Friday night you open opportunities to really get other people there, right? And I think to me that's why I love Friday. And again, it's like after work, so a little bit easier and to Logan's point, I think timeline is important for family have kids. I gotta know what's going on. Like, my wife and I will talk on Sunday, like, hey, what's going on this week? When do I need to pick up my kids? Our kids. So it's really so important for family and for just beyond who's involved in a meet for us to have a great timeline.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you guys.
Also, I just think like Friday night, there's just something about Friday night that's kind of more exciting that might draw more people out versus Saturday morning, especially on a college campus. I think if you're trying to get the student body there, I think Friday night might be more of like a thing to go to.
Bobby, I was gonna jump on that as well. This is Ryan Hawkins, at Virginia Tech. Do you have when you have the meets Friday nights, do you ever have pushback from other programs traveling and finishing Friday versus like is that the reason why most meets are midday for teams to travel in the morning, have the meet, and then travel in the afternoon and not have to spend the night? And what is
Sure.
is there pushback and what is that like?
I try to do 2 days meet. If the people typically Friday nights, if you go 2 meets, we go Friday and Saturday. Maybe create something this Friday night. It'll be the most important thing. And I try from far away. And yes, there will be some pushback. I get that, but we also say to a lot of the teams like, hey, this is an important time for us to. I think every team start understanding now. It's like it's important time for us for really to push this for Olympic sports really. And on the other side, though, Ryan, we have to make sure the meet is not lasting 3.5 hours. There's no way we can do that, right? If you're gonna go even Friday 5 o'clock start, we gotta finish no later than 7:30. Get them out of there. So I think that's important, right? So it's a two-way, definitely a two-way. It can be hard for team to come in on Friday night. I understand that. Um, you know, but at the same time, it's open, so it's. I mean, the facility will be empty. I feel like during the day. Like even if you're doing Friday at 3 o'clock, it's really hard to get people over there. People work and all that, and then Saturday, uh, maybe you have a better chance to do it like a little bit later. But Saturday it's hard. Saturday is weekend, so you don't want to hijack people's weekend. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I completely agree. I like the idea of Friday nights. I think almost all of our meets are on Saturdays, which is nice for parents traveling because we do have a lot of parents from across the country. But yeah, it's interesting, and I read this on some article, and it was really cool to see what you guys are doing out there. So keep it up. It's exciting to see.
Yeah, perfect. It definitely makes it a lot more of a spectacle because in the morning, no one wants to get up early in the morning. So it's kind of like, do I want to go swim meet or dive meet at 8 o'clock? No, but you want to go out Friday night? Like, sure, that sounds like fun. So it's again, you're making it sort of like this exciting evening thing, whether you do it a Friday night or you could do it Saturday night or something else like too. I think it's just the timing makes it make sense. To be mindful of time and everything, does anyone have any final questions or thoughts or anything? I know we are so thankful you guys came on this panel today. I know in person there's not a lot of people on this call, but hopefully a lot of people watch it after the fact. I know that like I said, 53 people filled out our survey, and those results were just really great to look at. And we'll send out a report to sort of help. But having these conversations just really makes this a lot better because it just helps our sports and it helps our programs and helps us stay sustainable. Because if people don't care about us and don't show up for the meets, then we're the sports that get cut. Where if we're that big excitement, then they're not going to get cut, and it's going to keep, moving forward and help us with the Olympics and growing our sports and being sustainable and everything. So, Logan, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us, and Bobby and Gav, I also appreciate what you guys are currently doing at UNC Wilmington to promote the sport of swimming and diving together. So thank you guys for that. I know at the very beginning of this, Aaron was supposed to be talking about what we're doing with the college rankings right now. So we're going to just talk about that for a brief second before you guys get off today. But essentially, we really wanted to create something amazing. And so I'm going to let Josh talk about it because if we're talking about college diving right now and how to promote it, we have been getting a lot of amazing recognition from the USPDCA's college ranking. And I want to shout out to Aaron Hintz and to Nick Stone, our intern, who have put in a crazy amount of work to make this happen. And I'm sorry that Aaron, technical difficulties, was not able to explain it himself, but I would be remiss if I did not say that they have been killing it to make this happen. And so we're very thankful for them. But Josh is going to take a minute to explain it before we head out for the night.
Yeah, again, echoing Chelsea in regards to Aaron and Nick, they do an incredible amount of work to put that together, as well as Nick Gaze with the promotion on the social media, creating the graphics. So shout out him as well. Essentially, right, the CSCA and a lot of other major sports and college athletics put out a college rankings every week. Or parts throughout the season. And, we wanted to do something a little bit more specific for the diving programs throughout the country. So the way the rankings work are solely based on results that are posted online through Dive Meets or Dive Live or any other sources. We are currently working on Division 3 for something for regionals. Just to have a little bit more data behind it. I know we're also trying to put together maybe a popular vote to get a different understanding from everyone else's perspective. But yeah, the rankings are based on overall average for optional scores, and that's how the divers get specifically ranked. To be a voting member, you do have to be a paid member of the PDCA as well as a college coach for the college rankings specifically. So if you are just a not a subscriber, unfortunately your vote doesn't count. So if you want your vote to matter, get a paid subscription and then just have your email listed. I am one of the people that put together the newsletter along with the emails that go with the college rankings. So I will make sure your email is included. Once the polls are created by Nick Stone, Nick Gaze, and Aaron Hintz. I basically send out the email to all the coaches. They have about a week to vote, and then we release the results. So those results should be coming shortly in terms of the new polls for this upcoming month. It's something we're really excited about. I think, again, a lot of sports have it, and I think it gives a little bit more recognition to the diving programs of the swimming and diving. Typically, the CSCA does have a ranking system for swimming and diving, but it factors in swimming as well as diving. This is more just specifically for the diving programs throughout the country. We do offer an option for others. So if you believe a school should be included and wasn't originally listed, you have a way to kind of mention that school as well. Chelsea, am I missing anything else?
So I will say, Josh made a good point that you have to be a paid member to vote as a college coach, but we are going to create a popular vote as well, so that any coaches, regardless if they're high school, club, or college, will also be able to vote for the popular vote. But again, you'd have to be a PDCA member to do that. But to encourage other people to get to vote too. So we'll do it for the coaches that are in each division, but then we're also now going to create a popular vote for any coaches that want to vote as well. You just have to be a PDCA member to do so. But the nice thing is it's already getting a lot of buzz and people are talking about it. I know one college coach reached out to me and said that his athletic director called him up and said he was incredibly impressed that he was on the rankings of it. And for an athletic director to call a diving coach is, I think, a big deal because most athletic directors don't even know who the diving coach is a lot of times. And so I feel like it's moving in the right direction, and we're excited for it. We're also going to roll out other types of things. I'm not going to explain them all, but we're going to roll out some other stuff too to sort of look at other different levels as well as just college. Josh, you looked like you wanted to say something else
Yeah,
too.
I wanted to touch on. So I know we've had a lot of coaches reach out regarding Division three. I just wanted to make a quick point on that, that there are a lot more Division three programs throughout the country and not a lot of data. So to have a little bit more fair, we are working on that. But just FYI, we are in the process of getting something for Division three. So please don't feel like we're excluding you guys. We are just trying to make sure we have an accurate representation. So again, like I said, we are in the works of that. So please, again, be patient as we go through that process.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. And like I said at the beginning of this call, we are talking about college diving here, but we at the PDCA love talking about and helping all aspects of diving, high school, club, and college. But right now, these conversations are really prevalent and important. And so what we're talking about now sort of helps all levels of it. So we definitely appreciate your guys' time with it. We also have been rolling out a lot of educational resources on the PDCA's website. If you have not had a chance to check those out, one of our interns, Kristen, has been killing it to really try and get us a lot of educational resources for diving coaches at all levels. And we've got a lot of other great things coming out. So we appreciate your time on this conversation, but we are open to having conversations about anything that can help support our sport, our coaches, our athletes, or any of you. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please reach out to us. Again, thank you so much for the panelists to talk today. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this. Hopefully it was really helpful, and hopefully we can all work together to keep making our sport even more exciting and better and more meaningful for everyone. So thank you, and I hope you all have the most amazing weekend and or I guess night. The weekend's almost over. And happy holidays.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Gav. Thank you, Logan, for speaking. Chelsea, thank you for maintaining the order in this conversation.
Thank you guys for having us.
Of course.